Physical Thrills by Silversun Pickups. 14 songs, 53 minutes long. And Silversun Pickups, Sean, they're one of your favorite bands. We've been able to review them a couple of times here on Audioface. And maybe not your favorite band. Go ahead.
No, one of my favorite bands. I absolutely love Silversun Pickups. Actually, we should do a bonus episode with them sometime because this is now the second album that we've reviewed. Silversun Pickups. Last one was Widow's Weeds in 2019, which we both genuinely liked. I thought it was a really good step in the right direction from them after Better Nature. Where Better Nature was more of experimentation, and then Widow's Weeds was kind of getting back to the root of where they started, but more of like an aggressive-ish sound of alt rock. And then we had like some different random things too of singles and stuff we've gotten for the past couple of years, since that was about 3.5 years ago that released. But Physical Thrills is, to me, it might actually be their most complete record. And that's saying something for a band that has been making music for 20 years plus.
I would say I'm less of a Silversun Pickups fan than you are. I've really only kind of caught on to them while kind of doing this podcast. One of the things I enjoyed about doing this podcast. And yeah, Widow's Weeds was just like really one of my favorite albums of 2019, alternative or otherwise. There are so many songs from there. Neon Wound, Freakazoids, Bag of Bones, this title track itself, We Are Chameleons. They just like, at the end of the day, you know, everything said, brass tacks, etc. I'm looking for songs every single week that stay with me. And Silversun Pickups has had a pretty phenomenal record of like creating music that stays with me and my very short understanding of being with them. That's a long-winded diatribe to say that somehow Physical Thrills is better. And I'm just going to jump right into it. Sticks and Stones is the best alternative rock song I've heard this year so far, full stop.
I think Sticks and Stones is very good. This is, to me, very interesting from a Silversun Pickup standpoint, because there are many songs I absolutely love from their first record, Carnivus, which I can never pronounce, and then from Swoon, their second record, two albums that I've listened to since they were released. But the thing was with even those like early successful records, there was always a couple tracks here or there that were kind of throwaway and never really stuck with me. But there was maybe like 4 or 5 tracks off of those two albums, so maybe 10 tracks total, that have lasted with me my whole life, right? With Physical Thrills, this is, to me, top to bottom, it plays through the best thing that they've ever made. Like, it is such a complete work from them, and in a space to where it, to me, is their most mature sound. It is them experimenting a lot with some stuff that they had in Better Nature in 2015, but they didn't really get to do too much with on Widow's Weeds. They get to do some of their sounds from Swoon, some of their sounds from I can't think of the 2012 record off the top of my head, but it's song of like The Pit that I was trying to remember.
Neck of the Woods.
A couple of the sounds from Neck of the Woods. So some of the sounds from Neck of the Woods. So like they're combining all the things that they've been trying and doing stuff, even like their Pickle EP in the early aughts. All of these different sounds that they have experimented with, perfected in the indie scene and whatnot, they have kind of put into Physical Thrills and really fine-tuned and tweaked and made it to where it almost combines all of those into one record, but it is extremely cohesive. It plays through wonderfully as a record. There isn't one song in here that I want to throw off, and this is one of the extremely rare few albums I actually love the interludes. I really, really like the interludes because, like, just me jumping
The Dream at Tempos, yes.
Dream at Tempo, because there's a song on Carnivus that's one of my favorite songs called Dream at Tempo 119. Amazing indie track. One of the ones that got me into the indie scene, actually. Beautiful track in 2006 that was released. And it's a throwback call out to that, but each one for here, it like transitions the record and keeps transitioning into it, so that way it plays through better. It's one of the very, very few records where I actually like those transitions, and they are placed perfectly throughout the record. Even the last one, Dream at Tempo 150, at the end, wow, I said it like a fucking pilot. Dream at Tempo 150.
I'm fine with 150.
Last track. Yeah. For the last track, it plays it out beautifully. So for a band who's been together for this long, and even though like we love my last record a lot, they had a lot of criticism and it kind of fell flat for a lot of like reviews that I looked at, and I criticized those reviews. But for them to come out like guns blazing on Physical Thrills and make one of my favorite alternative rock records that I've ever listened to on this podcast, this is possibly top 5 for me. It's up there with Preoccupations, because Preoccupations, the Horrors. This one might be up there with them, which is saying something. So yeah, Sticks and Stones I think is an incredible track as well. I love that you said that and you shouted out that track at the beginning.
Yeah, I
But
also have
yeah,
to say
it's
that the
just
way that Stillness leads into Sticks and Stones is the most brilliant thing. I mean, like,
beautiful.
yeah, let me,
Beautiful.
when you're done, just let me have at it with my whole, like, breaking down Sticks and Stones, because I had,
No, go into it because I want to get straight to the album. So go ahead.
yeah, I've, this happens sometimes, usually on Audioface, if I am listening to a song on my first or second try, and I have to stop that song, like, midway through and, like, replay it. 8 times out of 10, it's because of like a 21 Savage lyric or like some like rap verse that's like so funny or like so weird, honestly, or like something I'm just like so unbelievable. A really recent time was when I honestly couldn't believe one of the early songs in Drake's album was as bad as it was.
Mhm.
Like I literally played it over again because I'm like, no, I refuse to believe that like the last half of the song
It's
is
this
just
bad.
Drake wailing. But like, yeah, no.
It's like
Sticks
me and Star Treatment. It's like me and Star Treatment for Arctic Monkeys, where I just listen to that on repeat 10 times and then listen to the complete album after. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't that because like I didn't even listen to it on repeat. I just like couldn't get through the full song because my head couldn't follow the drum beat, and I was like, "No, Daniel, they're doing that
Oh,
on purpose. They're
interesting.
doing that on purpose." Because like
Yeah.
I'm very, especially when I'm listening to music, I can let a lot of things fall into the background almost to a fault. That's why I need to listen to things multiple times. Like I can really get into the instrumentation or the production, or I could really get into the vocals another listen. But I usually mellow out at the drums. Like usually the drums like kind of help keep me going. The rhythm, the bass, these are, very basic like Dan 101 music theory kind of things, right? No, like the drum signature changes, or the drum pattern changes. That's not true. It's still a 4/4 time signature and like time pattern, but the actual drum rhythm that they're doing changes, not necessarily just for the chorus or just for the bridge or just for anything else, but basically just through every single movement, they're switching it up. And you could play the same one throughout the entire song, but no, again, maybe Sean, I didn't, because of doing this podcast and editing it, I don't read a lot of reviews for things unless it's like a band I'm really paying attention to. If it's true, where like for their last record, Widow's Weeds, where Silversun Pickups got a lot of bad reviews, which would have been dumb, and Physical Thrills is their Warpath record, boy, am I love that. Because yeah, coming out guns blazing with Sticks and Stones, it is such it's borderline math rock. It's borderline like art rock. Those kind of things where like, okay, it's very specifically drawn out in a pattern, but like there's so much good in it. There's so much energy in it that has highs and lows. It is really the perfect alternative rock song for me in the 2020s. I think it pushes everything's forward enough. It includes enough experimentation, but still enough that will make it approachable to most people. It's a fun song. It feels like a groove, like, not necessarily the most danceable thing, but rock, not necessarily. Yeah. But still, like, I think it's an upbeat paced track that you could play in a lot of places. I think it's a very strong second track in an album where usually an artist puts their strongest work there. I really cannot sing the praises of this song enough. And I know it didn't get released as a single, which is why like the numbers are kind of low right now. But this is gonna be like I've been playing Belize basically on repeat, the cheat code song, Black Thought and Danger Mouse. There are a couple songs I do that with on Audioface. Sticks and Stones is gonna be the first alternative rock song to do that for me in a very long time.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear, because I'm always interested. It's funny because you're in a band that I absolutely have loved like my whole life, and there's not many people I know that like really like Silversun Pickups the way I've enjoyed them for their past few records. It's interesting to hear that from, like, that's one of the things I love about this podcast is introducing you to someone like that and then hearing like your opinions. And even though like Sticks and Stones is not my favorite track on here at all, I really like it, I enjoy it, but it's interesting to hear like how that really entranced you into getting into this record, which is really cool.
Oh no, I was balls deep at this point. I sent this to my roommate, who by the way is a big Silversun Pickups fan, so y'all should connect on that.
And so fuck yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna listen to this whole album and tell me what he thinks to it too. But yeah, no, Sticks and Stones, like you could have ended like very real. Like again, maybe it's the Preoccupations album or the Horrors review that we did, where I was just so amazed by the first like couple of tracks.
Unbelievable.
Where I was just like, I'm good. Like this this album could be like the last half of this album could be like Drake's Honestly Nevermind. I'd probably still give it a 9 out of 10. And I will say though, like we'll get more into. We spent a lot of time going in this record because we tend to do with albums we really like. I wouldn't. There are parts of this record to me where I feel like are the slower parts that almost like lose me in this record. Whereas you said that like no song sort of like feels out of place, so we might disagree there. But I think from the beginning we're pretty much aligned. Like this is just like a guns blazing,
Beautiful.
incredible album just on the way through. So Stillness Way Beyond leads into Sticks and Stones. We could spend another half a podcast on. Hereafter, Way After is another good thing. And those first 3 songs, they do a really good job of the second and third song don't blend into each other the way the first and the second ones do, but they do a good job of fitting nicely together. And then the Dream It tempo tracks, they do a good job of separating the album into movement, sort of. Exactly. They're interludes, but they're really tasteful interludes, so to speak.
Yeah. And Scared Together, which is their lead single, I really like the context of the record. You know, it's one of the things where we do on Audioface all the time, right? We listen to a single and then try not to listen to anything else. It's hard for me to do with certain bands, but so Silversun Pickups, I tried really hard. That was the only thing I listened to. I listened to like 3 times and I was like, I'm just going to go cold turkey and wait till the record. And I'm glad I did. Because Scared Together as a standalone track, I actually didn't like it. And I was worried about the record a lot going into this. I was like, shit. I wonder if that maybe that's it. Maybe they don't have any other tricks up their sleeves. But now in the context of the record, it's great because you have those 3 beautiful tracks, right? Stillness, Sticks and Stones, Hereafter. You have the interlude breaking it up, Dream It Tempo 050. And then you have Scared Together. It's a perfect little interlude to get into it where they get more into the experimental stuff. And now with all electronics and really cool bass line and stuff that they do with Scared Together, I'm like, oh, now it makes sense of why you have this track. Now it makes sense of the sound that you were trying to do with this. And then right after it, you have Alone on a Hill, which is a really beautiful, slower track. And it's placed perfectly after Scared Together, where you have, the first quarter of this, or almost first half of this record is really good experimental alt rock indie. And then you have Alone on a Hill, and you get to hear Nikki's voice. Nikki is the bass player on Silversun Pickups. And she has amazing vocals. She's really, really good. And she has a couple of good songs that she's done throughout it, but she hasn't done like a standalone track for a little while for Silversun Pickups. And it's beautiful. I'm really, really glad with that placement for it.
I didn't know.
Me, when
I didn't know that.
got
like,
to that point, I was like, wow, they are Jesus. Like, this is good. This is really, really good. It's one of those things where I'm like, unbelievable.
It sounds like a Warpath record, like you're describing. It sounds like they got bad reviews for their last record, and they're like, all right, bet. I love. I mean, I don't love it because obviously, like, it's a difficult experience as an artist when like. It's a relatively easy position with us as music critics, just kind of like go in, listen to a record as finished thing. And maybe we know something about the artist and we care about them. Maybe we don't, but we just sort of like go in, tear it apart, say what we really like and we really don't like about it. But that's like an artist's life. They poured into it. A lot of times very personal, deep experiences, or at the very least, it's a lot of time they worked into it. And so again, we thought Widow's Weeds was good. I don't know off the top of my head how the other reviews were, but if they were like, no, we need to absolutely prove ourselves after this, it felt like they did throughout most of this record. I think right after Alone on the Hill, maybe even Hidden Moon sort of like plays around and works right. But I think like songs 7, 8, 9, 10, I feel like is the most like undercooked part of the album, so to speak. Like, I think the beginning is really good. I think the end is really good. I think the middle is, like, almost lets you down at too much of a lull. Alone on a Hill's really, like, perfect. Like, it's a little bit slower. It still has a little bit of a tempo. I really love, like, hearing that, the bassist, especially the woman bassist, gets, like, a little bit of time to shine in there and does a really phenomenal job in that. But, I felt like Hidden Moon and System Error were almost too slow for the songs that bookend them on either side. Like, I almost would have wanted those two kind of things to maybe be interspersed. I don't hate the songs necessarily, but I definitely felt like they, on both of my listens, detracted from like there are a couple of albums I listen to, very, very few, that are just like every single thing is perfect. Not a single T has been replaced that I would place on here. Closest thing I remember off the top of my head to that this year would be Kendrick's album.
Kendrick, yeah.
Yeah, but like, you know,
even for me, like the Smile, there's a couple of tracks I would move around in the Smile.
Same.
So
yeah, I specifically omitted the Smile there because we reviewed those around the exact same time. But I think there are a couple things that would have switched around here. Here, I think on Audioface, switches or moves around are a lot better than cut this entirely. And I don't think I would have cut them entirely. I could have probably like gone without either or both of the tracks, but like I'm also fine with them being there. I just think that putting them somewhere else instead of creating a, 7-10 minute long, almost like lull point in a really kind of paced in a certain way album, I think that just like broke it up a little bit too much for me. But otherwise, I think right after that second interlude, Dream at tempo 310, you come and pick right back up with We Won't Come Back Out, Stay Down, Way Down, and then, Dream at tempo 150 is technically the last song, but it's like an interlude, land the plane kind of deal. Quicksand, I think, is a phenomenal ending track that,
so cool.
In a similar Silversun Pickups way, it takes everything they've brought to the table and takes the best part of what they brought to the table and just combines it into one dish. Almost like one of those Top Chef type of things where like they have a secret ingredient and you have to take that secret ingredient and make the best dish out of it you possibly can to impress the judges. Job well fucking done.
And I love Dream at Tempo 150s. It reminds me of some of like the ambient sounds you got in Tomorrow's Modern Boxes by Tom York. Like the way you have like that kind of chimey piano and then you have this really fuzzy sound with it and it just ends the album beautifully with it. And I really, really like that where they have like a little singing vocal and stuff. And I know Brian, who's the lead vocal and guitarist on Silversun Pickups, is a fucking giant Radiohead fan, like Sean level Radiohead fan. So I wonder if he actually got inspiration from Tomorrow's Modern Boxes from that. I'll have to look that up at some point. But overall, as a record, Physical Thrills is fantastic. Exceeded my expectations tenfold. Really made me like appreciate Silversun Pickups even more than I already did. And then now, it's one of those things where people ask me, what are your favorite records of the year and stuff? And like Mr. Morale and Big Steppers is always the first thing that popped up on my mind almost every time I talk about it. Now Physical Thrills is going to pop up. Because to me, like, there's so much good music this year. And it's hard for albums to stick out. You have some good ones from last week too. But Physical Thrills to me now is going to be immediately one that pops to mind because this is just amazing work. Go listen to it.
I'll say one last thing similarly as you were doing to broaden the context of this. Sean and I came up musically in a time where rock and alternative had much more of a prevalence in the music scene, and that's very much no longer the case. Very much no longer the case. In fact, those would be without indie and a lot of what indie is doing, and a couple of other genres here. Like I think folk's doing a lot of interesting things. I think there's instrumentation in R&B that is taking stuff from rap, even stuff it's taking stuff from rock, but even stuff in rap, like with the XXXTentacion, the like SoundCloud rap kind of era, is taking a lot of stuff from rock music. It lives on in that way, but to be able to come out and say, this is a rock record that is phenomenal, that pushes things forward, that doesn't feel like just something old people listen to, is a very strong thing to say in 2022, and it makes me happy as someone who grew up in alternative as a space to be able to say, no, alternative is not only alive, it's kicking. And thank you, Silversun Pickups, for delivering that. Truthfully, I don't know if, we'll have to look back again. I don't know if a lot of artists have, a lot of alt rock artists have done what Silversun Pickups has done or even come close to this year, but I'd say just off the bat before doing the Audioface Awards, that's the one to beat currently.
Oh, 100%.
Listen, we still got, this is actually an interesting time. I think the fall is going to be an interesting time for alternative music because we have Muse coming up. We have the 1975 coming up. There's still some question marks around Arctic Monkeys. That could be, if not this year, maybe early next year. But there's for those holdouts in alternative music, and based on the metrics for Audioface, I know there are a lot of y'all out there, and you all watch the show. Watch this space. This is going to be a very exciting time for all of us these next couple months. 100%. I'm really excited for it.
And I'm not going to miss them on tour this time because I missed them last time. So I'm going to finally fucking see Silversun Pickups live. I've waited like 20 years for this
At the
shit.
risk of going further broke, me too, please. Invite me for that.
Right. I will see them, damn it. I had a ticket to go to the I forget what the observatory in Orange County, and then COVID hit. And then that was my one chance. So sometime.
Well, Sean, looks like I just found a motivation for you to help me with the member drive.
There you go. Exactly.
All right, arbitrary
Audioface
scale.
Arbitrary. Oh, sweet baby G.
Yes. Arbitrary scale. We do arbitrary scales every week on Audioface because our review, the 15 minutes we just poured our heart and soul into the Silversun Pickups record, stands for itself, just like the record does. That being said, everyone insists on having some sort of like review thing at the end, so we'll give it to you. We just won't give it to you in a normal ranking system kind of thing because we're not normal. Neither are you. That's why you're here. That's why you're awesome. Anyways, the arbitrary scale this week that we change every single week, but we'll be using for these 3 albums are explosives and different kinds of explosives. Somehow we have not done this in the 240 odd episodes of this bastard. So I'm going to give these claymores.
Claymores are a really good one. That's a solid explosive.
Yeah. Just drop them bitches by a door. Sit and wait, baby.
You see those red lines, you're like, shit, sniper is near.
Precision crafted performance.
This is shit. This is a bunker buster. Solid, like a job from a B2 Spirit. It costs like $3 million taxpayer money to blow up a farm that costs $2. Got some $2, Robert.
Buy American.
Buy American.